First things out of the way, let's clear up what this video is not. It is not a video on how to market your game. As important as this is, it's not relevant to every single game that has ever been made. You might not be trying to sell your games after all, and the truth is that other people can talk about this better than I can anyways. If marketing tips are what you're looking for and you don't know where to start, I and everyone else recommends Chris Zukowski. This video is also not about how to get into the industry. I mean, like, maybe once upon a time it could have been, but LMAO. Making games can help, sure, but I'm not going to sell you the fairy tale that if you work hard enough, Nintendo will call you. And finally, it's not a step-by-step guide for making a specific game. I'm not going to tell you to open up Unity and drag this Cubin or whatever. I'll end up pointing you toward resources that helped me on that front, but that's not the point of this video. What this video is a response to comments and DMs I've gotten asking the same question in different ways. How do I get good at making games? Whether you're a programmer, artist, writer, designer, musician, or something else, my goal is to give you a strategy to approach making games that actually leads to finishing one, and then another, and then another. The advice I'm going to give is the advice that has gotten me to where I am now. I'm not the best programmer, artist, designer, or writer, but I can do all of them well enough to make the games that I want to make. And when I can't, I know how to improve. Because of that, I've placed consistently in game jams and am hired full-time at an indie studio, which is still kind of wild to me. Of course, there is no one path to any endeavor, and everything I say is subjective. If you disagree, be nice about it when you leave a comment, and I'll be nice to you in turn. Heart, because this is YouTube, I'm going to give you an actionable 12-point list in a somewhat particular order, but not totally, on various advice that I have gathered, thought, and pondered on. Here is how to make and finish a video game idea that you like and are proud of in 1 year, starting from 0. Let's go. Before you start, set the right goal. I'm going to get the obvious out of the way that many have said before me. For your first ever game, don't make your dream game. Don't plan to make a commercial release or a portfolio piece or anything like that for the first game you ever make. Though, put a pin in that, this isn't to say to throw those ideas away, but rather to prevent your brain from getting stuck in a quote-unquote learning everything perfectly mindset. Decide that your only win condition for your first game is, I finished a playable game. And it can be small. In fact, it should be small. I think a good actionable rule for your first game is, if it can't be finished in 2 weeks, it's probably too big. And even if you keep that in mind, you'll probably end up overscoping, and that's okay. You're learning. 2. Turn your dream game into a skill set. Taking that pin right back, your dream game is allowed. Just not as a project. Not right away, at least. Instead, the role of your dream game is to be your compass. Its job isn't to be made right now, it's to tell you what skills you actually need. This is paraphrased from wise sage advice that I heard a VTuber say once. Take your dream game idea and write it out in one paragraph. Under it, list what skills it requires, or at least what skills you think it requires. As you get more experienced with game development, you'll start to realize how much more you still need to learn. But I'm getting ahead of myself. For example, if you want to make an interactive murder mystery game like Danganronpa, Ace Attorney, or Of the Devil, your list might look something like this. Or perhaps you're making a 3D FPS puzzle game crossover that no one has ever heard of, in which case your list might look something like this. After you've made your list, pick one skill from that list. That skill is going to become your next, or perhaps first, small games focus. As you can tell pretty quickly, few of the things on your list are going to be in the exact same wheelhouse. A programmer, after all, is more comfortable making a functioning save and load system. A writer might be more comfortable writing branching dialogue logic. Illustrators will be more comfortable making sprites, etc. But in order to make a game, you have to make all of it. Every menu interaction, every sound effect, every line of dialogue, every sprite usage, all of it needs to be placed manually and accounted for. You can specialize. You can use pre-made assets, you can work on a team, and there are absolutely parts of the process that can be made easier. But there is no part of the game that is not your problem. And that means that's a lot of work. But thankfully, You can. 3. Pick an engine that removes work. So many people will search up what's the best engine, or what do professionals use? There's no answer to the first and infinite answers to the second, so get that squared away. Instead, it's more productive to ask yourself, what engine removes the most work for the game I want to make? Some actionable, if incredibly overgeneralized, guidelines to keep in mind are, if your game is mostly writing, you should check out RunPy. They recently added 3D and shader support, and if you want more functionality or minigames, most anything you can do in Python you can add to it. If you want to make a turn-based RPG, or even a top-down based walking sim, RPG Maker has made many a classic game, and it has a thriving user base and active forum. Enjoy novelty and your game is 2D? Godot has the fastest growing support system of any game engine right now and is really good for beginners. Want 3D realism and have managed to snag a lot of RAM in the current crisis? Unreal is an industry favorite. The rule to understand here is that if the engine forces you to build systems unrelated to your game's core idea, it is the wrong engine for now. A small aside though, specialized engines like RunPy and RPG Maker that take a load off of programming are not lesser tools. Games like In Stars and Time, Slay the Princess, Doki Doki Literature Club, and Amori were all made in RunPy and RPG Maker, and they are just a few examples of the many commercially and critically successful games made with these engines. Please don't feel limited by the idea that people won't take you seriously if you use these engines. Do what you need to do to make, and more importantly, finish your game. 4. Define done on day one of making your game. Most people never finish because done is undefined, or at the very least, a nebulous concept. So, define it. Write a checklist before you start. For example, the checklist for what done for your game could be: the title screen exists, the game can be played from start to finish, the player can win or lose easily. Of course, this can vary from game to game. Once all are true, you have a free pass to stop working. Don't feel pressure to polish pass unless required to finish. The reason you should give yourself reasons as to when and how a game can be considered done is because otherwise, it is very easy to continue working forever. And when you're early on, completing even a singular game will have you leaps and bounds ahead in understanding when you start on your next one. 5. How to use tutorials without getting stuck. Tutorials are great, important, but they're like training wheels, and unlike training wheels, they can be a little harder to take off. I personally like and recommend the 2-phase approach. Phase 1. Tutorial mode. In this phase, you should use step-by-step tutorials in the engine of your choice, ideally in the genre of your choice if it's available to you. Watch someone else teach you how they made their game, usually cloning some simple games like Flappy Bird, Pong, etc. The purpose of this phase is to teach you vocabulary, how things are wired together, and generally just become familiar with an engine's workflow, which is oftentimes overwhelming with all their bells and whistles. From personal experience, if you're looking at Godot, I recommend this 2D course. It helped me a lot when I was transferring over from Unity to Godot. Of course, Brackeys is the GOAT, and there are literally hundreds of other tutorials for every engine under the sun out there. Do some research and have fun. Of course, tutorials have a shelf life. After a while, following them stops teaching you how to make decisions. And that's when we look at tutorials 2. Phase 2. Apprentice mode. An important middle ground, apprentice mode helps you get rid of the training wheels. Start off by deciding your own small game idea. It should be comparable to the size of the full-length tutorials you are following, if not smaller. Then make it. You're allowed to search up tutorials, but only a special kind. You can only search up individual systems. You can look up, for example, how to make player movement, how to implement dialogue trees, how to implement scene switching, etc. But you cannot search up how to make a full RPG. You need to learn how to come up with a puzzle, in this case the puzzle being your game, then make and find the pieces, the systems of your game, yourself. This is honestly pretty similar to how making a larger scale project is actually like, but you'll learn to make these systems fit your needs better when you actually make a full game. When you're first starting out, many basic systems will be so foreign to you that you'll probably need to search them up to even make sense of them. As time goes on, these piecemeal tutorials will help you make your own systems better. 6. What small game actually means. Okay, I've tossed the phrase around a little bit, but let's clarify. A game that is not small is an hour-long JRPG, a demo, Chapter 1 of a larger idea. While none of these ideas are inherently bad, they can be dangerous when you're starting out. Oftentimes, people will decide on a smaller version of a larger game without accounting for all the extra systems that are made for the scale of a large game, like an inventory, item, dialogue, and battle system for your hour-long JRPG. Demos and partial releases also let you hide behind the shield of "I'll do it later," and ultimately look less impressive. And if you care about people playing your game, they are less likely to play it if they're unsure that it'll ever be finished. And you can only do that by having a proven track record of finished games. Some good rules of thumb that I keep in mind for really small games, but your mileage can vary, are I like to have one core mechanic, one goal, and 5 to 30 minutes of total playtime. Of course, these are all subjective and not hard and fast rules. If you want a real deep dive into the topic, I highly recommend Indie Game Clinic's video on it. Here's a bonus number. You can generalize, then specialize. I noted at the start that you might be a programmer or writer or artist or what have you, but you also might not know what you are yet. And that's totally fine. You can be a generalist forever if all points of the game-making process are fun to you, or you can start by generalizing, realize what points of the process are the most fun for you, and hone in on that. A potential rule of thumb is to spend 6 months making games and figuring out what you like, experimenting, and then once you know, lean into that. But if 6 months sounds like too long to be waffling, then just do whatever your heart desires. 7. Expect the wall and plan for it. If you want to make video games, you probably already have a taste in video games. You have visions in your head of what are good games and what are bad games. And of course you want to be making good games. If you want to make bad games, I don't know, click off the video. But unfortunately, your imagination is probably far greater than your current skill level. But this is true no matter how skillful you get. The wall, a depressing feeling of doom and lack of motivation that often hits a project, may happen when the game looks worse than you imagined. Flaws will jump out clearly, bugs will seem pointless to fix, and motivation will drop. But do not despair, this means you are learning. However, as a rule, do not start a new project whenever motivation drops. You may simplify the game, cut features, and lower expectations. As a fact, this is good. Scoping a game is a skill to learn, and this is a good a way as any to learn it, but you should put off completely restarting as much as possible. Finishing a game will do more for you than constant false starts ever will. 8. How to actually improve a game without scope creep. Of course, just because a game feels bad doesn't mean it is bad, but you can make changes. I don't have any size-fits-all solution for how to improve every game, but I do have some tips and tricks. So here we go. Tip A, lean into your strengths. You do need to make every single part of your game, yes, but you are probably better at making some part of it over the others, particularly if you are a specialist. Don't be afraid to lean into and take advantage of that. Let your games be known for the part of you that's the coolest. For example, Omori is a game that is very clearly made by someone who specializes in art rather than programming. And while its story is great and its gameplay is serviceable, I feel that the visuals are what set Omori truly apart from other games, and probably had most people clicking on it. RPG Maker isn't an engine that requires coding knowledge, so it's a good example of the sorts of things an artist can make if they so desire. Similarly, Vampire Survivors' art is completely pre-made assets. It has little to no story to speak of, and its code is solid, but not anything only a genius could come up with. I mean, that's why there are 5 billion Vampire Survivor clones out there. But that showcases the strength of a designer. If you examine most indie games made by one person, or small teams in general, you can probably pinpoint 1 or 2 elements that are the standout strength of the game. Figure out what this is for you, and lean into it. Tip B, clarity over complexity. One of the biggest traps in game development is mistaking complexity for quality. Adding more mechanics, more systems, more features. That doesn't guarantee making a game better, especially if you're building on a rocky foundation. It may only make it harder to understand. A good game is oftentimes not the one with the most stuff, it's the one where the player always knows what they're doing and why. clarity beats complexity nearly every time. Tip C, match your assets. This may seem contradictory to point A, but it's actually a combination of point A and B. A lot of people get distracted making one specific part of the game shine. Polish is great, and I love it. But going with the to make a game, you have to make all of it idea, it's important to understand that if one part of your game is super shiny and polished, the non-polished parts will look all the weaker. Make sure the game looks consistent throughout, though what consistent means can of course vary from game to game. Sometimes a part of the game that looks worse and that you have no desire to make look or feel better can be a sign that that part shouldn't be there in the first place. Don't be afraid to trim the excess in this case. For specificities in getting art to look nice, I highly recommend Mrs.'s video on the topic if visual art isn't your strong suit, or even if it is. Art for video games has unique challenges that, say, animation or single-piece illustrations don't necessarily have, given all of the moving components and need for player clarity and understanding. Highly recommend the video, it's short and sweet. 9. Don't use generative AI. Use asset packs instead. Okay, here's the controversial topic, so please be nice. Smiles. I'm not going to give you the many moral or statistical reasons as to why you shouldn't use generative AI, because if nothing else out there has stopped you, I probably won't. Instead, I will give you a different main point to consider. The indie game development community, by and large, hates generative AI. Forget making your game look inconsistent, it will make basically the entire indie dev community. A community that is one of the most tight-knit, encouraging, and helpful when it comes to resource sharing and cross-promotion out there. They're just gonna dislike you, and oftentimes they're gonna go out of their way to denounce you. Just look at the hot water that Larian and Sandfall Interactive is in. To give my pretentious opinion, games, like all art, are a form of human communication, so show others what you've got with your own hands. Instead of generative AI, please look toward genuinely high-quality asset packs, whether your needs are for art, sound, programming, etc. Do an iota of research, check out HIO's asset packs. They've got plugins, they've got art, they've got music. Check out Kenny Assets, Free Sound, Open Game Art, Dova Syndrome. And on top of that, if you shell out even a tiny bit of money, you can also get access to ginormous libraries people have made just for you. Even studios that release paid products will include free and paid assets alike in their games, so there's no reason why you shouldn't. Go for it. You might argue that there's little difference between using generative AI and asset packs, but the fact that someone along the line cared enough to make something generally makes for more satisfied customers. And to the original point, the community is not going to hate you for using asset packs. If you're making a smaller scope thing, like a game jam game where everyone is expected to work for free, you'll find an enormous amount of people who are willing to do so. Oftentimes, the connections you make in smaller projects will blossom into full-time partnerships. Generative AI can't grant you a beautiful oomph to spend the rest of your dev days with. Okay, that's the controversial bit over. Yay, we did it. 10. Ship it, but low stakes. For your first game, shipping it does not necessarily mean Steam. Steam has a $100 price tag and a lengthy approval process that many developers dread. When you're starting out and your game isn't intended to be commercially successful, shipping can just mean the game exists outside of your head. Upload it to itch, make a Google Drive link and send it to friends, or if it's for a game jam, submit it there. Show people your cool project. Smile big and wide and be proud. If someone else can play it without your help, consider it shipped. 11. After shipping, 1 retrospect. Take out your writing utensils. It's time to do a retrospective like you're in school again. Unless you're still in school, in which case, it's time to do a retrospective like now. Write answers to things like, what took the longest? What was easier than expected? What do I want to learn next? These are good starting points anyway. Did you like making the game you made? How would you have started it differently? Etc., etc. Give yourself concrete experiences that you can actually think of. But don't dwell on it too long. Try and figure out what it is you've learned from making your game. Properly acknowledge these lessons, whether they be how to sort your files or more nebulous design concepts. And then, 12. Start the next game. Your second game will be better almost automatically. Not because you're smarter, though I guess it can be framed like that, but because you better understand the process. Look back at that dream list you made. Remember the one where you wrote down every skill you need to learn in order to make your dream game? And cross one thing out based on what you accomplished. You might have actually accidentally accomplished 1 or 2 extra things based on whatever you made. Then, reassess your list. After making one game, do you think some things don't matter and should be taken off your list? Do you think some things do matter and should be added to your list? Or maybe you've realized that your dream game is something completely different and you should throw the whole thing out. It's totally fine to change your mind. This is not a test, it is simply an exercise to get you where you want to go. You're a growing developer. What is important is that you stay excited about what it is you're making and that you see it through to the end. Most people don't fail at making games because they're bad at it. They fail because they never practice finishing. They get stuck in loops where they tell themselves that it's just not the right time to start making the game, or they just need to push it a little further and finish it. I'm guilty of it. But if you finish one small game, you can finish another, then you can make medium games, then bigger games. It's all a matter of giving yourself those stepping stones to make something really special. Hopefully this was helpful to you. If you've got any questions, feel free to leave it in the comments below and I'll do my best to respond. If you found this enjoyable, of course, liking and subscribing helps out a ton. I've got a lot of other videos on game development, including the making of my own games, which can serve as reference points for how the game making process goes. Check me out on Twitch or Blue Sky or whatever fits your fancy, and I'll see you when I see you again. Probably in another devlog, as when this goes up, I think I'm gonna be in the middle of another game jam. Regardless, bye bye!